Hello and welcome to the Soul Ascension Podcast with me, Ciara Ashwell. This is a space for awakening, remembering and rising into the truth of who you truly are. Here we explore all things ascension, soul purpose, starseed wisdom, healing and the deeper layers of this human experience through both solo transmissions and powerful conversations with guests who are here to guide, activate and inspire. If you've ever felt like there's more, like you're here for something greater, you're in the right place. And today I am super excited to have with me galactic messenger and intuitive guide, the beautiful Sarah Starr. You are so welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation because we're in a time where a lot of people they're not just curious anymore. They're literally remembering, they're questioning everything, and they're realizing so much more to the reality that we're actually taught. So this is going to be a good conversation.
Isn't it an exciting time to be here, Sarah? It's such an exciting time. And I'd love to know, firstly, if you want to tell the listeners, for maybe those who don't know you, what exactly do you do?
Yeah. Well, my name is Sarah Starr. I would describe myself as a galactic channel, intuitive, a multidimensional educator. I also am a consciousness teacher. I do Starseed origin reading, so I can read your origins. I also do space weather and astrology, and I kind of bridge the gap between spirituality and science with that. I work as a claircognizance, intuitive, clairvoyance, clairsentience. I also have telepathic reception and energetic downloads that come in. So I try to relay those to people, but I wouldn't classify myself as like a medium because I don't really talk to past loved ones. What I do is I connect more with like higher dimensional beings or galactic lineages or soul memory. I connect to like the consciousness fields. And that's where the information really comes through beyond the physical realm. But my background's kind of also really important because I didn't start planning out going into like the spiritual field publicly at all. I actually studied media and communications in college. I got a dual bachelor's. And then at one point I was planning on going into broadcasting. So I moved down to South Carolina, and that path was going to be my possible new reality, but something really didn't align when I went into the news field, and I realized how manipulated and controlled it was. And so it didn't feel aligned, and I stepped away and I moved back home. I could just feel that it would have changed myself. I had to shrink myself basically and participate in a system that didn't really feel truthful to my own soul. So I also spent time in the entertainment and the modeling industry. So I have very real behind the scenes look at how images and power and celebrities and the perception, how it all really works and what to do to actually manipulate the public. So I saw the mask come off very early, and this is just not what the public often sees. And it's really, it's closed doors. These are like secrets that we're not really supposed to spill, but we do anyway, or at least I'm not a gatekeeper. So it really takes a lot of the discernment that I had to keep up with, and it's very high discernment. So that helped me understand, again, media programming and frequency and influence, and then how people are conditioned to worship systems that don't really serve them, really. So, but my work really is about bridging like that intuition, the galactic awareness, the astrology, the space weather, again, disclosure, soul origins, basically just consciousness education in a way that people can actually understand, because when they start their spiritual awakening, they don't know where to go. They have no idea what's going on. This is so new information. And when they search for the information, not a lot of people have it. So if you fall upon me, that's amazing, because I'm literally just here to help you. That is my goal.
And it's such an important role to have, especially now. And like, it can be so confusing for people when they've just starting out and they don't know what to believe or where to go. And it can be very, very overwhelming. But I'd love to know, have you always been intuitive, Sarah, or when did you open up to the world of the galactics? Is that something new, or have you always been that way?
I wouldn't say it's new. It was more of like a lifetime of remembering, because as a child, I always felt different since day one, really. And, my family talks about this too. So it's not just me. So I knew I was a unique soul. I didn't feel like I fully belonged here. The way that other people seemed to fit in, it just didn't seem normal to me. I questioned everything at a very, very young age. Religion, school, authority, all those type of things, the society, the way it's structured, and why people suffer. Nobody could give me the real answers to the questions of why the world felt so heavy. It feels so heavy whenever you're here as a child. And I remember really having this inner knowing that Earth isn't like the whole story. So whenever people would talk about religious, I was like, there's big gaps missing. Why? But you're not questioning it, but you're leading your life in this whole entire way, and you're letting this full, like, change you literally, but you're not questioning it. But they followed it anyway. But anyway, so I had like this experience again when I was very young with the grays, and I tailor it back to when I was between like 1 and 2 to 3 years old. We were moving. I was born in Seattle, Washington. My dad worked as a computer software programmer and engineer, and we would travel. So we went down to Texas, and I pinpoint my gray experience to Texas. This is when a lot of my memories disappeared. My sister has memories, my family has memories. I have the photos, but I don't have my memories. My memories were not there. In fact, they were replaced with this gray vision, these visions of the grays. And it was like sleep paralysis, because I felt frozen. It was like my body couldn't move, but my awareness was still there. I was still awake. And then there was this fear that was attached to it, because at the time, as a child, I had no language for what was happening to me. You don't understand what's happening. But looking back, I can see there was a lot of layers. And I remember these beings. I remember the medical feeling environments. I remember the sensation of being observed or being checked on. But I also had this fear, and I still have this fear of long, thin, metallic, needle-like instruments. Even though I don't remember any pain from that, I still felt like I was just being monitored and studied or prepared, whatever it may be. But it wasn't only just frightening experiences. And that kind of drove me towards like the astrology and like these esoteric kind of things when I was young. I read over 1,000 books, and I was in the newspaper in first grade because I read a whole bunch of alien books when I was little, because I was looking for these answers. I was like, why does this vision keep popping up? I didn't even watch ET movies and things like that. So it started very young for me to dive into a lot of information. And I see why I had to learn that information now, because nobody knows about this type of stuff. They think of it as fiction, but it's not obviously fiction, because they're coming out and saying it's real. So I also had visions and memories of being taken to what felt like a school type of setting when I was there. So it was some sort of learning environment. It felt like information was really just being stored inside of me. Maybe until I was ready to access it later in life, which would be now. So I remember seeing these transparent boards and like these screens. And then it was almost like futuristic glass panels that you would see in like the movie WALL-E or sci-fi movie. It was like those type of screens. But that's where like the information was being shown or transmitted, or it was being taught. But it was not a normal type of school. It was consciousness education. So I could connect the dots later in life and help other people connect the dots later in life. So I felt like I was learning more through like light and through like images and symbols and telepathy and energy. And that's kind of where those past life memories came about, because it triggered a lot of different things, like the futuristic way of learning on different planets and different higher dimensions. Like our way of living was so much different. So I would be getting these glimpses of other worlds and other lives that I used to live, or I could tap into other people and see how they used to live. But these weren't always full linear memories. I want to say sometimes they came as feelings. That's my primary talent, I would say, or hidden talent is feelings. I feel everything.
Me too. Yeah.
As soon as you're talking, I can picture everything in my head. I feel exactly how you feel. Sometimes it is a curse. Sometimes
it is tough.
Yes, it is. Boundaries are where we have those in place. But also, I had these emotional imprints and like these flashes of places and bodies and landscapes, or civilizations. And I just could feel the emotion of those lives so strongly. So I could feel the homesickness that came from the places that I couldn't name. I still to this day, I don't remember the names. I remember the feeling, the people, the way of life, everything like that. Completely different how we do it here on Earth. But I could feel like I existed in other forms on other worlds with different roles and different missions. So kind of from like my early childhood memories, I would say. Again, I read a lot. I also created a book when I was in first grade. Again, first grade was big, I guess, for me. But I still have this book that I created. I remember him saying, hey, we have to do a book project. And he listed all of these little things that we could have made a book on. And I chose to make a book on something he didn't put up there. I chose to make a book on a planet that was I called it The Planet Lots of Water.
Oh, wow.
Looking back, it doesn't feel like it was something made up at all. Because I talk about having no religion. I talk about having no schooling. I talk about not having to eat food. I talk about different ways of living. And it felt like this memory was trying to crawl back and through my child's mind, which was crazy. So it involved this ocean world, not 100% ocean, because it looked like if I had to name a place, it felt like Mintaka. You know, when
I was thinking Mintaka as you're talking,
right. And when I go back into that area, you know, Mintaka, they were taken over through the oceans themselves, deep into the ocean. So there's people with these soul connections to Mintaka, with dark water and like deep water. They don't want to go near it because there's like triggers and traumas. But again, I pick up these different colors, these different ways of living, like no rigid system, I would say, like we have here at all. It was very open, very inviting, almost like community, like everybody took care of their own kids. And I think a lot of, it was amazing. But the society felt way more peaceful and connected. So for me, my awakening was really the process of realizing that things that I thought were imagination or dreams or strange childhood experiences were actually part of a much larger soul memory. And I feel like we're all connecting into that right now. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling it. I see it. It's coming. 100%. And they're looking for teachers like you and me that can talk about these things, because who else talks about these things?
Yeah. But it's so much easier to talk about it now than it was even a few years ago.
Yes.
You know, it's becoming a lot more acceptable,
yes.
Which is just amazing, because for me personally, I held back for a long time speaking about the galactics for that fear of judgment.
Yep.
And it did hold me back for a long time. And then the push got so strong. They were like, you need to use your platform to speak about it. And I did. And there was still a bit of resistance there. But like once I did, it was like it was out there. And now, I mean, that's all I speak about now on my social media. But there was a big fear there a few years ago, but it's so different now. There's so many people coming out and talking about it. And it's almost mainstream now. And there's no that fear of judgment is just completely gone, because it's so needed. And so many people are remembering now their soul origins, or they just know that there's more there, and they're wanting to find that out, So that is an incredible story. I mean, look, all children have these amazing imaginations. And I always say with children, they're so open. I don't feel a lot of it is their imagination. I feel a lot of it is their remembrance, or they're seeing these things and it's put off as imaginary friends or whatever, because we're so open as children. But to have all that information and the memories for you is incredible, Sarah. Is there a particular star origin that you kind of feel most connected to, or what would you class as your star origins?
Well, my star origins are all over, because I've done my own chart, and I realized why they are all over is because I have to explain the lives that other people had, and the traumas and the triggers. So literally I'm all of these different things. But I will say a big awakening factor for me, because whenever I was growing up, again, my family would pinpoint these things that I would say when I was little. And then just judging by the way I look, blonde, blue hair, blue eyes, and my what was it? 23andMe kind of thing. My sister gave me that. Of course I did it. I mean, they have my birth record, blood, all of that anyway. Yeah. So it goes back into the Nordics and the Germans and Norway and all of that. So being and understanding the Pleiadians was one of the first triggering things for me, because I was like, wow, I remember the guy on the ship. Why do I look like this? I feel like this was my awakening moment to say, hey, Sarah, you're a part of this too. Maybe you having white hair. This is how I described it as a child. My grandma would say, hey, Sarah, there's a little girl over there with white hair like you. And I would look at her and I was like, Grandma, ain't no way. I am the only little girl in the world with white hair, because I feel like deep down, my soul already knew that I was special, not like special, like better than anybody, but I was supposed to remember before everybody. Yeah. And a lot of the people that do remember are the ones that have a lot of trauma, especially during childhood and like growing up and having those things. And so it opens you up to feeling different and experiencing things from a different perspective and lens than other people. And that makes us wake up a little bit quicker, because we're kind of alone, and we feel alone, because who do we talk to about these things? Like mainstream media is opening this up for people to talk about and be a little bit more comfortable with, but they still are controlling that narrative.
Oh, absolutely.
Discernment does matter. But I felt so connected to the Pleiades star system whenever I started investigating it, just the energy from it. Again, I feel with feeling, colors, all of that. So 100% direct connection to them, direct connection to Lyra as well, direct connection to Andromeda in Arcturus. I have big connections even in the Orion star system, but not the lower half. I lived upper half while they were doing the Lyran Wars, and then everything scattered. But those are my biggest ties. Oh, also to the Sirian line too, because
Sirius,
yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps now, because the Pleiades star system and the Sirius star system are the ones who they had the most burden after. They had to take care of all of these different people who, were scattered. They lost their homes blew up. Millions of their population passed on. They all had trauma. So they came to these star systems that were heavily involved in their heart centers and helping these people. But again, there was also trauma in those other star systems as well, because it was too much to take on, or people left and you felt abandoned while you were working and helping these other places. So there's a lot of different feelings that come up for people with different origin ties, and not everybody is the same exact thing. And you're not just one thing.
Multidimensional.
I've never done a chart where it's like, you're just one.
You're just one. Yeah. And it's a great point that you made there about the trauma, Sarah, because I think some people who don't are very new to this whole starseed, journey, and so there is a bit of a misconception there that, everything is so amazing and beautiful, but there was so much trauma. So much trauma, and I don't think people kind of fully realize that, really. And so like for me, when I'm working with clients and stuff that have a lot of that galactic trauma, it's showing up in their lifetime now. you know, but it's related to their galactic lives. And I don't think some people kind of don't realize that, you
Right.
know.
There's hidden layers underneath it all. Like I do natal chart readings and I also do Starseed. I do a whole bunch. But anyway, those two are very, very different. Like your natal
Yeah.
chart will tell you the things you like and what your experience in this life. But a Starseed origin reading shows me where your real karma is and what keeps spinning in your earth life and why you feel the way you do. So I see that two different lenses when I do these readings. They're so beneficial. Both of them are so beneficial.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what it is. There's so much trauma that's built up in these past lives, whether it was them being ripped away from a system or them not being able to even speak out or them being abandoned or their home planet being blown up. There's so many different things,
So much.
so many different things. And we're all split from the same exact soul source. You know what I mean? So we carry these patterns and this information into this life, but we're led in blinders when we come here, obviously memory away. So it's up to us to spill the beans, or like if you get a cheat sheet, you know, from me, it's a little bit easier to handle your life because you know what's coming, and you know,
and to understand it.
Yes, it's so important. But it's not available everywhere, or I'm sure you've seen it online too. Again, discernment's really important because people are popping up with like these quizzes for like star seeds, and I'll give you a reading, but it's complete not real. Like it's complete fantasy, and I love it. I love the feelings of like the metaphysical, celestial, etheric type stuff. It's beautiful. I love the cosmic outlay, but it's not practical or reliable at all. And the information that you're presenting these people is actually misleading. So I'm seeing again like disinformation campaigns going on.
Yeah. Oh, hugely. I talk about this all the time. And I think it's just to confuse people, isn't it? So, Sarah, when you're looking, say somebody is booking in for a like Starseed origin reading, how do you where do you get that information from? Are you looking at their energy? Like what way does it work?
Well, what I do is I ask for their birth. I do natal. No matter what, I always am going to ask you for your birthday, your birth time, or your birth location, because that's going to show me everything that I need to know. It's going to show me the elements that you have inside of your chart too. And also where like these degrees in your like houses and the planets are. So it's showing me what direct connection to star systems that you have and what type of energy is in you. So you may have a lot of water coming in through you because you have too much Scorpio. But that shows me that you have a lot of big, serious outlines there too. But again, it's not just because you have water, you're tied into like a serious star system. So it's really multi-layered when we get into like the astrology of it. It takes me a little bit. But I can feel into the energy and I see different traumas and I call them out, but I've never been wrong. Nobody's told me I've been wrong yet. So I feel like the system that I created is real. It's working. It made sense. Nobody's ever done it. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe somebody has done it, but I did it on my own because I wanted to figure out the bottom line for me. So I was like, well, if this is working for me and it's exactly how I feel inside and the energy that's presented in my body and in my chart, then somebody else is going to be looking for that too. And this could be beneficial. So I started giving it out to other people and testing the waters and seeing, hey, does this relate to you? Where's your energy field at? Do you feel like your mind is a little too racing because you have too much air in your system, but you have a lot of fire? So these are things that I have to look into, like fine, minute details, also midheavens, ascendants, all of that kind of stuff. And it's not just tropical astrology I do. I also do Vedic layers as well in transits because I want to see what's coming up and why you're struggling. Because it seems like a lot of the people that come for me for readings or sessions is people who are lost. They need some information. Something is falling in their life. And they want to know why and how to get over it. But whenever they come to me, they're always in an integration preparation phase. So I'm like, oh, perfect. Because I'm going to give it all to you. You have this amount of time, absorb it. And then and then of course, if they have questions, they can ask me whatever, I'm not going to charge them for that. But what I do is I look at their soul. I feel their soul, and I want them to feel seen and heard. And sometimes what they present to me is really personal, extremely personal, things that they have never told anybody in their life, but they feel, they trust me with it. And that's amazing. So I really try as hard as I can to make sure they have a path forward, because that's why they came. I'm not, and if I don't have the answers, I will find somebody who does have the answers, because I can't just leave somebody hanging, that affects my life too.
I do the same. If there's something I can't help someone with, I have a list of people that I can refer them to. And that's really important as well, because we don't know it all and we can't help with everything. So, but the astrology is something that just, for me, it's just mind boggling. Like, it's so complex, isn't it? Like, how did you get into it in the first place?
Again, that was more of a childhood thing that I was like dabbling in. When would I start astrology? So again, around first grade, because that's when I started my journey with the books. So like first grade to probably eighth grade, because by eighth
and
grade,
how old are you now? Because in Ireland, our grades are, it's no, how old were you then in the first? Because I know in Ireland, like, we have different schooling systems. So what's first grade? What age is that?
What is eighth grade, everybody? Eighth grade would be like 13.
Okay, yeah.
14, 15. No, not 15. Like,
so
around
it's going,
that.
it'll be like, yeah.
I think it's around that age. So I stopped. I kind of read everything that I could read. And I also did tarot at that time. I went into everything, like all of the weird things I was super drawn to. But then, teenage years hit, and I got really busy with school itself. And then I stopped, because it was something that I couldn't connect with anybody with it, because nobody was doing it at the same time, or I would get made fun of because I would ask or like do the astrology or whatever. So I kind of put it on the back burner. But again, it's knowledge that was stored for later in life. I had no idea that I would still be using it. I just thought it was like a play art for me, but it came so easily to me, and I was immediately drawn to it. Immediately. So many weird things that I was drawn to back then. But it all plays a part in my story now, and how I do help people. It took me a long time, and it's still taking me a long time, especially with Vedic astrology. There's so many layers. It's a little bit overwhelming, but there are two different lenses, I would say, like Vedic and tropical. Tropical really shows, again, it was manipulated. That system was manipulated. But it does show you the 3D world that we live in and what energy we experience. And then whenever we add the Vedic lens, this is more of like where the collective is transitioning. So the physical of the tropical is happening in your reality, but the underlying background layer is this Vedic astrology. And I've been doing that for a couple of years and playing with it, and every time it's right. So, and knowing, again, the background scenes with the elites and the celebrities, knowing that they do this satanic worship with this, that's the key. Like, that is
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they have a lot of tricks.
Yes. Millionaires do not use astrology, but the billionaires do. And so they predict these things years in ahead. And they have these plans out in place to manipulate people in the systems, and then bring systems out. So this has all been planned out for a very long time. And they use the astrology to influence, and they're very good at it. But it's not just the astrology, because they also have direct energy weapons. Your phone. I don't know if you know about this, but they don't say they don't talk about cell phone towers and like DoD documents, and like that's the defense Department of Defense. They don't label them as cell phone towers. They label them as direct energy weapons, and they label your phone as that, your computers, your car, all of it. And they use these frequencies through that and to manipulate you with because of planetary alignments, and they talk about the solar weather again. This is like natural energy, but they also manipulate that as well. So there's two different things at play. And if you are not aware of them, you're just blissfully unaware. And that's a nice place to be. But it doesn't help any of us because we're trying to, show you that, hey, they're literally doing this. And, I'm seeing in headlines that they're even taking down like 5G towers because they're next to child centers and these children are getting cancer and they're getting
oh my God.
So it's a very real thing. And once we get into higher levels, not just 5G, but 6G, 7G, 8G, 10G, this is their plan. And they know that they can lock us in a specific frequency grid. So like the matrix grid is about 4.2 hertz, but the Schumann resonance, which is like Earth's heartbeat, is at 7.83. So they're trying to lower and connect all these 5G towers. So it creates a frequency grid that won't be able to have like the natural resonance or the higher frequencies come in. Again, why they dim the sun. There's so much. Again, I'll try to keep on track. But there's so much going on.
No, this is so interesting to me because it's such important information, Sarah. Like, so what would you recommend? Like, what can people do in their everyday lives about this? Is there anything we can do?
The best thing to do is honestly keep your awareness up, keep your discernment up, and ground as much as possible.
Yeah.
Take frequent breaks from your electronics. There's also, like on your phone, they'll have these lights that come on to catch your attention. You can't see it. It's like an infrared light. But they have these things all over the place. You can't see them, but they trigger you. But just because you're aware of that now, take breaks from your phone because it literally will trigger you to say, oh, I need to look at my phone. Why do I need to look at my phone? Oh, because the light's blinking that I can't see. There's hidden layers behind all of this. But grounding is so important because as a content creator, as you know, it's draining being around electronics, period. Phones, cameras, all of that kind of stuff. And the only way to connect to yourself and get rid of all of the excess energy, not only detoxing your body, is by connecting to nature. Since your electromagnetic field is connected to the earth, you can transmute that energy out through the bottoms of your feet because you have meridian points there.
Hands on the trees.
Yep. Hands on the trees. If it's too cold for you, there's snow on the ground, put your hands on the trees. Go around water. Just the movement itself will bring out the energy from you. Just being in nature, period. I know some people aren't nature enthusiasts, but if you really want to get away from the manipulation of the media and the electronics, that's the only way to do it. Other than detoxing your body of the heavy metals of all of, like in America, we're poison. But it's the only thing we can consume because food's so expensive. Organics double the price. And a lot of the people here don't have markets. They can't go and buy organic like in New York City.
They make it so difficult, don't they? Like they just make it so difficult for you. And I think as well with with social media and the phones and everything. And I know like our work is a big part of our work is social media, but I just find it such a distraction. It's like they want you constantly distracted because when your mind is distracted, you're not within, and that's where they want you. But it's like, I mean, this is a thing for me too, because a lot of my work is on social media and it's a real struggle for me. Like I have to be really conscious about it because it's like you could stay and you see it all the time. You're out in restaurants and people just on their phones and everyone is on their phones all the time. They're like just completely disconnected from themselves, which is what they want. And they make it so addictive. It's really tough for people.
It is. They do it. They do it literally on purpose. And they do it by these tiny little lights and these frequencies that they emit through your phone. So if your phone is constantly being hot, it's because it's upgrading. And they're not telling you they're upgrading it, but they're doing stuff with your electronics. And I think people really need to be aware of that. Again, I have background knowledge in media communication. So this is very real. They not only do that with your phones and stuff, but they do it with all of the programming, the movies, the TV shows. They use music in the background to keep you attracted. They use hooks to keep you there longer. And that's a manipulation marketing technique as well. So there's good marketing techniques and they're bad. So I'm here to blow the whistle on all of them because I don't participate in that and I don't want to participate in that.
And that's obviously why you had the experience of working in that industry. So you could see that side, which is, you know.
I had to be abused.
You took out, but look, we all have, everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? And then we have these experiences so we can go on to help people. But I know you talk a lot about the geometric storms and the Schumann resonance and stuff. So can you tell me a little bit about that for those who don't know much about it and how these geometric storms actually affect us?
Yeah. That's one of the main things that I started talking about whenever I got on social media in the first place was this. I don't know how. I have this huge connection to space weather and solar activity and plasma consciousness, and somehow it connects in my brain. I don't know how, but it does. And so what I do is I saw that there was a lack in forecasting weather. It was just regular forecasting weather, but nobody was talking about solar weather. And it is number one on the National Risk Registry. Space weather controls everything. It is at the top. Nobody knows that. I had to learn that. So I thought that was really interesting. But why doesn't anybody talk about it? So I started talking about it because I feel like there is a collective awakening that is happening right now. But it's unfolding in all of these different type of layers. So on one level, people are waking up because life is becoming a lot more uncomfortable. Many people are financially strained again. They feel like they can't afford to live. They're exhausted. They're realizing that the systems that they were told to trust just aren't protecting them anymore, and they have to protect themselves. Again, discernment really matters with this because but here's the thing, the discomfort that people are feeling, that's an awakening trigger for them. So the celebrities, the politicians, the media, the education, the healthcare, all of that, the money, religion, the government, that is where you question it all. And the solar events is what connects you to the awakening process. So we have, when we talk about solar energy, I'm talking more of like, the sun is not just a ball of light. It's made of plasma consciousness. Consciousness is what you're all made out of. It's source, literally. So the sun affects Earth's magnetic field. It affects the ionosphere, which controls the weather. It controls your nervous system. Solar weather affects your electronics. Again, weather patterns. It affects the way you experience time as well, and emotions, and then consciousness itself. But geomagnetic storms here. Whenever you have a CME or a coronal mass ejection, this is an eruption that comes out of a sunspot on a sun, whether it's directed or not. This comes with high electrons, protons. Sometimes those hold mass. They hurt. It makes your body feel heavy when they come in. So sometimes we slip into solar radiation storms with these effects that come in. But think about this massive bulk of plasma that is just ejected out. And it hits our magnetic field as it comes in. And our magnetic field is already weakened. It weakens every 11 years. Again, we're in the solar maximum. So this weakens continuously. But with the weakening effects, there's also cycles, bigger cycles that happen again. So the geomagnetic storms that come from these solar flares, they can affect you a lot more quickly. It opens up this layer within the Earth's magnetic field. So cosmic energy can actually come in, and that's where you see the auroras. What you're seeing is a pole that comes in on the northern and southern poles of the Earth, but it also can drip down. And if you're sensitive to energies, you will feel it. You can feel solar flares come out. You can feel the geomagnetic storms. They disorient you, but depending again on, there's a lot of factors depending. So depending on like velocity and density of solar wind, or incoming plasma, the effects can arrive within usually between like 24 to 48 hours, sometimes longer, depending again to up into like 72 hours. But these storms, like, they affect satellites. They affect radio, your GPS. They can shut it down. They affect your the weather systems again and human sensitivity. So spirituality, I believe, the photonic light, like the plasma waves, the frequency shifts, those can activate the body and your own consciousness when they come in. But sometimes when high energy comes in and your body's not ready for it, it feels less peaceful. It doesn't feel great. Sometimes people can feel foggy, emotional, dreamlike, overstimulated. They'll get the
drained.
Yes, drained, exhausted. They'll come in bursts as well. So you'll have like bursts of energy and then you'll just be completely exhausted. Dizziness comes with this, anxiousness, wired feelings come with this. Downloads also come with this. Mind receiving information that your body can't really process yet. It can feel like consciousness is waking you up before your nervous system can even catch up. Or sometimes your body is reacting before your mind can understand why. And I feel like the space weather here is just going to become more and more important. People are realizing it's a thing and they're interested. They're like, oh, that's weird. I didn't know that existed. But people are starting to pay attention to solar flares. Good. They're starting to pay attention to geomagnetic storms, the Schumann resonance. They're starting to pay attention to the auroras and the KP index because they're realizing that these things do, in fact, affect Earth and they do, in fact, affect humans. And this is, again, the elite agenda. They don't want you to know about this. So
why do you think that is? Why would they not want us to know about it?
Oh, because they have a controlled narrative. If they can control the fear that is emitted on you, if you feel overstimulated and if we, again, there's two plays at the same exact time, natural solar stuff, and then their direct energy weapons. So like HARP and things, they'll play with that and increase auroras and increase that feeling. So when they do that, or when they see that natural solar flares are coming in, they push media propaganda at the same exact time when you're overstimulated. And again, it lines up with specific astrology alignments too. So they do this and they see what energy and the astrology is moving forward and what they can push for the narrative moving forward. But again, they're thinking years ahead. So they have these meticulously put out in place for you. And that's unfortunately what we have to deal with. But they will label these things as Havana syndrome, which is like radio sickness, but it's from high cosmic radiation. Gee, I wonder where we get that, because the weakened magnetic field, it comes in and infiltrates. I've never been able to see the aurora when I was a child. I don't know about you in Ireland, but I've never seen it. I didn't even know.
We've only seen it very recently, like in the last couple of years. I think it's been 2 or 3 times now in the last couple of years we've been able to see it here, which is just unheard of.
It is. It's so bizarre. And now I feel like people are also so desensitized to a lot of things that they're like, meh, they have no idea. But the thing, they're just, not only are they desensitized, but these people are exhausted. They are drained. They are just they're emotionally triggered, but they hide it. They hide it so well. They think that, oh, we'll just continue doing our 9 to 5, continue paying our taxes, continue watching our movies and our TV shows, and then just thinking everything's going to be fine and dandy. But continuously, they're seeing that that's not the case anymore. The media narratives, the news, the wars that are happening, all of these things are being pushed on them, and to the point where they feel even more exhausted and they give up. And that's easy for everybody else to take advantage of, because they can push fear movies and TV shows and all of that stuff on you and fear headlines. And they do that on purpose. I see it all the time. But
it really is. As you say again, discernment is just so important, isn't it? And question everything. I mean, I'm sure you're the same. I don't watch the news. I don't get anything, I don't get involved in anything, because I'm like, it's just another game.
Yep.
It's just, everything is orchestrized. Is that the word? Yeah. But I just question everything.
You have to, because there are lies in everything that you read. Like I spent way too much money on my college education just to realize that I was being manipulated myself, and nobody knows about it. And even the people that I talk to in like my physical reality and I talk about these things, they think I'm crazy. I'm like, I have background information. I literally was going to work in that field. What are you talking about? No, I know what I'm talking about. And it's very serious. So
but I think for some people as well, Sarah, I feel they're, if you know, it's not, it's, what's that word? It's the there's a word for this, the cognizant dissonance, is that the word for it? But good like word. It's a scary thought for some people, you know, some like to think that this is going on and we're being so manipulated, and people, a lot of people don't want to face that. And like sometimes for people, ignorance is bliss and they just get on with things, but really that's not the way to do it. We need to wake up to what's going on because things are changing so rapidly and the shifts are happening so quickly. You know, and I know you speak a lot about the solar flash, Sarah, and I'm just so interested in this. Can you just explain a little bit about that?
Of course. So I've been talking about the solar flash for a while now, but again, I see both timelines happening with the solar flash. I see gradual solar awakenings already happening. We've had really strong geomagnetic storms. We went into a G5 just a couple of years ago, and we're still getting up into like G3 severe storm levels or strong storm levels. G4 is severe going up. And then G5 is an extreme. But this solar flash is happening. Hopefully, this is, again, there's two timelines going on. There's a possibility of having a sudden burst. That's going to be not so great. The gradual timeline feels more manageable and a little bit more compassionate towards like the human body. That would be nice. And I'm all for that one.
I'm a bit more leaning towards that one.
I like that one. I'll take a whole bunch of little bursts because as somebody who's sensitive and can feel the energy coming in, oh my God, I don't know how my body would react. If there was a sudden burst. But again, if that sudden event would occur, there's going to be much bigger effects that happen. Remember, the solar flares and all of this stuff affect the weather patterns and you yourself and your electronics. So we don't exactly want the world to go completely dark, but it's a high possibility, And the elites know about all of this. They know all about this. Why do you think they made the underground bunkers all over the place and the mag trains? You know, so they know about this, and they're slowly kind of preparing people a little bit, not really. But if we have this gradual process, that's going to be the best bet. But I'm not 100% sure what's going to be happening. Like I said, there could be a sudden Carrington event that shuts everything down, puts everybody in panic mode, and then Project Bluebeam could be like on par. There's going to be many different layers to this going on. But if we continue with this gradual process and these slower bursts that come out stronger, they're still strong, but they're slower. That can be more consumable. And we wouldn't have as many dramatic effects here on Earth. So no tsunamis, the earthquakes again. These are all attributed to solar flares, geomagnetic activity. We already had a 7.8 in the Philippines. You know, they're still getting aftershocks, and it continues. And so, and I also want to pinpoint, this is something I've been learning or realizing, and I haven't seen anybody talk about it yet. Stefan Burns touched on it, but I talk about it. So what I am seeing, not only with solar flares, CMEs, is that we have another problem, and it's these coronal holes. Now, a coronal hole is like a deep pocket within the sun's corona. It opens it up and it creates these big solar wind streams. They can polar tether themselves to Earth and create geomagnetic storms on their own. So it's not just a solar flare that we could get. It could be a combination, which would be crazy. And we've had that, but it could just be a coronal hole by itself, because coronal holes can take weeks, a week whole, or 2 weeks, even rotations, big ones. So think about it. Geomagnetic storms, continuous activity, continuous geostorms, controlling the planet, increasing everything. That's not good. that shows me that those actually have a longer effect than an actual solar flare, because that could be 2 weeks at a time. Solar flares come in, you might be affected for like a week, maybe. It depends. Yet again, 24 to 48 hours for solar flares to really come in. But there's big problems we have, I see. Big problems. Even a C flare. We just had a C 7.6, I think, from region 4465. And that's such a tiny flare. But we're getting a geomagnetic storm, a G2, moderate geomagnetic storm from that. That's wild. So many different layers onto the sun's activity, not only solar flares, but the coronal holes, and then these tiny little solar flares affecting us and creating geomagnetic storms. I think people need to connect the dots, because that can be detrimental. We can't sustain that with our energy grid. I'm already seeing them shut down in third world countries just because of the strain of that and the heat on top of it all. And we're in El Nino. So there's so many things.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's mind boggling, isn't it? So if there was, I know you mentioned the 2 timelines, and I'm more leaning towards the gradual one.
Yes.
That's kind of the one that kind of resonates a little bit more with me. I do feel there is going to be the solar flash, but I feel it's going to be the more gradual one. If it was the other timeline and we did have a big solar flash, what would that mean for humanity?
If we had a Carrington level event, that would shut down the power grids across all nations. They know about this again. They're counting on that. They already have martial law things set in place. They had meetings and all that fun stuff. So what it would do, and I think it's going to trigger fear, obviously.
Yeah.
I think this is what people are thinking about with the 3 days of darkness as well. But here's my interpretation. My interpretation, 3 days of darkness, that could be a shutdown, couldn't it be? Yeah, absolutely. It shuts down the entire everything. You have no news, anything. They could do whatever they wanted. But at that same time, you could also have Mind is Called technology come in. They could do that. That's easy. Interesting. So if they could do that one, what else could they do? So I'm also thinking, like, again, if we had a sudden burst, that's a lot of energy. People are going to be extremely tired. So it's going to put these people to sleep. If you're sensitive to energy, you know what I mean when these come in. You just feel this exhaustion wave. You can't even think. You can't talk. It's crazy. It's absolutely wild. So if we had a sudden burst of that and people aren't acclimated already to the energy, it's going to put them to sleep. So I interpret that again with these 3 days of darkness kind of deal. And then the shutdown of the internet, 3 days darkness. But we have so many different layers onto this. But again, if we had a sudden burst, it would create havoc within weather patterns. We would see stronger storming systems, stronger earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, all of the above. Again, lasting effects on not just humans, but animals, plants. Everything is affected by this. And it would take humans a little bit of time to acclimate back into a new reality, because they're going to get big downloads that come in. That's what I kind of see with that. But it also depends, again, velocity, density. If it has protons with it, it's going to be worse. It's going to be so worse. But that's why I try to keep you guys solar weather aware when it's needed. Like today, again, we have like a very small C-class flare. I'm not really going to report on that. It's not crazy. But when we get into like G3, when something bigger is coming, that's when I'm going to report on it, because I have to report on like galactic stuff too. They told me I have to do both. So
but it's so good to know this information, because sometimes, like, you're just feeling exhausted and no motivation and you don't know where it's coming from. And to know that there's a reason for this can be really helpful. So I think it's so important to kind of keep track of all these storms and it kind of just so you're not going mad and you're not, because it's really affecting people.
It does.
And Sarah, what do you think would the timeline be for all of this? Like, what do you see, even from like an astrology point of view for humanity? What's the timeline for all of this happening?
Well, it's going to be a gradual process. Again, I feel like disclosure is going to be through our whole entire lives until we pass away. And hopefully by that time, our kids and grandkids will be set. That's the goal. But there is an agenda. There is a deadline. The deadline is 2030. They already know about this. Yeah. So they have to emit certain things within that amount of time, and then see how people play with information. Again, people are really tired and exhausted and almost don't care at this point because they're stuck in survival. So what I see happening is bigger effects towards 2030 specifically, bigger ones. Like we're going to see contact, like real contact.
I feel so. Yeah, I feel that too.
Yes, that's going to be, it's not going to be 2027. I mean, you may see, again, ships in the sky. You may start receiving telepathic downloads or dreams. That's how they connect to you, is through like the 4D dream realm. That's how they can connect to everybody. But what I'm seeing kind of for the next year, at least for this year, I feel like this year is actually like really comfortable. I want to say it's more comfortable with disclosure elements that are coming out. Again, June is going to be a bigger disclosure kind of period, especially as we go towards the like mid-June. So like right now. So we have Disclosure Day that came out today. Yeah, June. Yeah, today's the 12th. June 12th.
Today's the 12th, yeah.
Yeah. So we had Disclosure Day come out today. We had the UAP transparency at the U.S. Capitol that happened on the 9th. Again, that was when we had Venus conjunct Jupiter. They did that on purpose. But it's to open you up to like emotions. That's basically what it's saying. So I'm seeing like with June specifically, like June 12th, again, Disclosure Day is coming out. But then we have this new moon in Gemini happening on the 14th. So this is like, again, communication cycle. So journalists are going to pick up information, the media, and they're going to pick up information. There's going to be like this version of events that kind of happen. That's that type of energy. As we go towards like June 19th, I'm seeing Chiron entering into Taurus. So that's like where a source of wisdom kind of comes in, because those concerns like your physical security and like money and all of that fun stuff. So I'm seeing that beginning, like it begins a preview of like a longer cycle, but that includes like wounds again with the collective around like material security and relationships in nature, because they don't feel like they're seen or protected by the governments anymore. So I feel like that's going to be a really good turning point for the collective. I'm seeing June 21st. Again, we have solstice energy coming in with Cancer. So again, people are going to be thinking about their home and their safety, their family, their national identity. You know, they're done with this. And that kind of prepares you for Mercury retrograde in Cancer towards the end. But we have some bigger things happening. You know, Mars enters into Gemini. That's pressure and action and conflict and acceleration. There's a lot of big air energy coming towards June and July. So a lot of information is going to come so swiftly, and it's stacked. Like I'm not going to be able to report on it. A couple people are going to have to, like, we're all going to have to we're all going to have to do it, because there's many layers all at the same time. They're doing that on purpose. So they confuse you during these astrological times to harness your energy for bigger things. That's what they do. Again, June 29th, they're going to be shutting down CERN, or the Large Hadron Collider. And that's going to be, again, the 4-year transmission up into 2030. I think they do these things on purpose.
There's a little patron here.
Right? Yeah, there is. And they're doing it. Why are they doing it on that day? Very interesting. Because June 29th, that's when Mercury retrograde begins. They're doing these on purpose. So again, that Mercury retrograde is going to be more about like the historic UFO cases are going to be coming out, probably like archived interviews and like footage and things. Bigger documents that were misclassified or hidden or misunderstood. And then again, that same exact day, Mercury goes retrograde, we have a Capricorn full moon. I can't make this up. So Capricorn full moons, they bring like visibility. So they're this forces the institutions to confront what their current structures can maintain, because they can't maintain the public trust anymore. And that's so important for this year. This year is really important, because if they don't get their stuff together, they're not going to be able to, see past the corruption. And they're just fall into the system again, or just they're so exhausted they're just going to go with the flow because they can't.
Which they're banking on.
Right. That's exactly what they're banking on. They want these people to be so exhausted and just don't care that they just give away their free will purposefully because they can't do it anymore. But like July is really big. We have a Mars conjunct Uranus and Gemini on the 4th of July, which is interesting because Mars is ignition. Uranus is really the disruption of it all. So again, Gemini, communication, all of this. So it also involves like transportation and media. So breaking news around that time. There's also going to be like unexpected announcements around July 4th. We'll see exactly what that is. But sudden information will be spreading. And then I'm also seeing July 7th, we're seeing Neptune turning retrograde in Aries. That's going to be interesting because your dreams are going to become a lot more stronger. Neptune here, that's like your intuition, the dream, spirituality, all of that. And then Aries is like action and identity and like swift movement. It just goes. It's leadership energy, 100%. So people are going to be receiving more information and messages and sensing like this invisible shift. But I feel like June and July, I pinpointed it out. Something big is going to be happening.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah, huge, absolutely huge. I mean, just the astrology lineup. But I feel like when we go, I mean, we have a Mercury Cazimi at the end. There's just so many things. Venus enters Virgo, it meets into the South Node. We also have a Cancer new moon coming in. We have nodal changes that are going to be happening from Aquarius into Leo energy. Man, it's just
so much.
It's a lot. And I see exactly with what astrological movement, what they're playing. Because when it's hard to discern, like, of course you can predict this years ahead of time, but when you get to the actual date, that's when you see exactly what they're doing. So I didn't exactly like, we'll put in June 9th, for example, because that was like whenever Venus was conjunct. And that was when we had the UAP hearing. I'm scrolling up to my UAP stuff. Boop, boop, boop. Here we go. There we go. My UAP. So that was an interesting time. And it was out of nowhere and almost nobody knew about it. But this was a really big transparency movement for us because we're showing and telling people, hey, that we have more information the government is showing you, and there's unrealistic like expectations that are happening. So we have Jupiter and Venus meeting up in Cancer during that day. And that represents a lot of your home and ancestry and expansion of opportunities. So they did it on the correct day. And I'm wondering if they knew about that and pinpointed it on that day. Yeah, it opens the door. It opens the doors to some bigger things. And I think they're lining these things up. And
for sure.
I don't know. I'm hoping they are, because that was a good conjunction for them to put that out there and to do it on their own. They did invite independent media sources. They had some smaller, like, they didn't have like the big headline news stations there. Some of them were there, but they're trying to sway the direction of disclosure and the information that comes out. So it's palatable, but it's still breadcrumbing. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yes. They are breadcrumbing
100%.
so much of all of it. And that's why I say disclosure is going to take a long time. The timeline itself is just going to be drawn out. You're going to be so bored and at the drip drop pace and so frustrated at it. Because they want you to make your own.
But again, they want that.
They do.
Yeah.
But they also, it's really beneficial if you're awake that you can make your own decisions and you can actually make this information go forward. Yeah. Because the news stations aren't doing a good job. So independent people who are podcasters, content creators, influencers, we have to be the new media and take over. Yeah. That's what we're looking at. We're the new media, social media. not
Absolutely.
used
But I
to.
think people are going to these outlets more than the media because
They
there's
are.
so much distrust there. So,
Yes.
and again, just your discernment is so important, isn't it, Sarah?
It
But,
is. It has to be.
you're just full of knowledge. You have the astrology stuff just blows my mind. So
There's
thank you so
more. There's a
much for
lot.
this chat, Sarah. You've been absolutely amazing. Before
Thank
we
you.
wrap up, Sarah, if people want to work with you, because I know, especially with the starseed origins and the natal chart readings and stuff like that, is people are so interested in. I will put your links in the show notes for to be able to contact you, but what's the best way? Like your main services kind of are your readings and the natal chart stuff, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's what I have going on right now. I'm kind of still building stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you feel connected to this conversation and to things that we have been talking about, you can find me on all of my social media pages under Sarah Starr Official, or through my website, sarahstarofficial.com for for your bookings and things. But I do offer starseed origin readings, natal chart readings. I offer Akashic record sessions. I offer higher
Amazing.
consciousness sessions. I also do like tarot and oracle guidance if you need that. And I do intuitive energy readings as well. But my work
Amazing.
really helps people understand their soul and their
Mm-hmm.
gifts and their mission and why they're here and the patterns that they have and just a bigger multidimensional picture of why they are even here. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I also am building on my website right now. It's called the Cosmic Learning Hub, which is
Mm-hmm.
going to be an educational space for people who want a larger like picture understanding of spiritual and galactic and consciousness concepts, but more in
Amazing.
like a visual and organized way. So people are going to be asking about different races and how dimensions work and where they come
Mm-hmm.
from and all of that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm really building because I don't see it anywhere. And everybody's looking for all of these different things. It's going to take me a little bit of time, but a lot of people are visual learners.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these topics, they're huge with star races, and
Mm-hmm.
galactic history and energy systems. But I'm also going to have space on there for space weather so they can understand how that
Amazing.
works. It seems like a lot of people don't understand. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be also providing courses for these things down the line.
Brilliant.
Astrology as well. I try to dumb things down because the concepts are too big sometimes.
Yeah.
And again, visual helps with that. So
Mm-hmm.
I also will have on there disclosure, consciousness on there, dimensions, how it all connects really. So my goal is to make
Amazing.
the information just overall easier to understand and not
Mm-hmm.
just through the words, but through visuals and teachings and breaking it all down and structured learning. So I feel like,
Amazing.
yeah, my mission really is just to help people understand who they are, why they are here, why
Yeah.
they came, how to step into like their purpose here on earth. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you're here on earth and you don't have, a guidance, anything, it's really hard
Mm-hmm.
to navigate. So I really just want uh, to, I feel called to teach consciousness. Not a lot
Yeah.
of people talk about that.
That's your role.
Yeah, I feel called to talk about galactic awareness because
Yeah.
we're talking about it. I feel
Yeah.
called to talk about soul lineages or like history, galactic history, hidden history, esoteric
Hidden. Yeah. Yeah.
energies, frequencies,
All the good stuff.
all the good, all of it. So
Yeah.
if I just want people to feel
Yeah.
empowered, I want them to not feel afraid because I feel like
Amazing.
there's this frequency among us all that we feel lost and alone and afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here
Mm-hmm.
to help them calm their systems down, not feel overwhelmed, feel seen, feel heard, and connected to, but not dependent. That's another thing. We don't want
Yeah.
to be dependent on anything. It's
Mm-hmm.
just you utilize it as a tool. But
Mm-hmm.
the truth here is we're entering a time where people need both spiritual awareness, but they also
Mm-hmm.
need this grounded discernment.
Yeah.
And I'm here to bridge that and help build that bridge. And I feel like you are too.
Amazing. Thank you. So it was such an important message to end on, Sarah. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for your time. And your social media is just so informative. So again, I'll leave the links in the show notes and people go and give your page a follow because you put some really, really amazing stuff up there. So thank you for your service and for shining your beautiful light in the world, Sarah. It was absolute pleasure talking to you today.
It was
And yeah,
great.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ciara. I love being on here. Good conversations with people.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope this episode supported you, activated something within you, and reminded you of the magic of who you truly are. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who may need this message too. It truly helps support the podcast and this community. And if you'd like to journey deeper with me, you can join us inside the Starseed Sanctuary membership or explore my mentorship program, the Soul Ascension portal, through the links below. Until next time, keep trusting your path, your intuition, and the wisdom of your soul.